Ski-ba-dee-ba-doo. Ski-ba-dee. Ba-ba-hee-ba-ba-doo. $1,000 wedding. Ah, I love this song so much. Here's the one thing that's wrong with $1,000 Wedding by Gram Parsons off his 1974 album Grievous Angel. There's no way a wedding is $1,000. This song doesn't hold up, man. Not nowadays. You can't get married for $1,000. Dude, I was a wedding DJ. The DJ alone for a 3-hour wedding, $775. But god damn if that song isn't perfect. It's number 425 out of 500 on the Spotify Ridge, the 500 with Josh Adam Myers. That's me, the King Cadougal. How all you doogly spooglies doing out there in quarantine land? Thank you for joining me on the only podcast that's going through Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums. I say it every week. I hope you guys are comfortable wearing your night pants, your comfy clothes, hanging out with your loved ones, socially distancing. You can hang out with your dogs, you can say hi to your neighbors, but do not touch a motherfucker. Also, I was just talking to Peter, the one and only. He grew his beard back. Listen to the music, guys. I mean this. If you are feeling depressed during this time, feeling alone, feeling isolated, first thing you need to do, make a gratitude list. Say, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I got shelter, I got food, my family's not sick, I've got television, whatever the fuck it could be. And if that doesn't get you out of your funk of why you're feeling sad and isolated, then listen to music. I do it every day. I put my headphones on. I listen to Gram Parsons, this record. If this doesn't bring you out of a funk, I don't know what will. And I put my headphones on and I just walk outside with my dog and it feels great. So me had an idea about making kind of like an uplifting quarantine playlist for you guys. I say do it. Man, put together the songs that make you happy. These records, dig in. Music will soothe the savage beast. Also, guys, let's do Instagram stories this week. We haven't done them in a while. I want you guys to take a screenshot of how you're listening to the 500. Tag me at Josh Adam Myers. Tag at the 500 Podcast. Tag at Spotify. Tag the guest that is on it. And I want you guys to share them on your Instagram stories. Give me a 24-hour ad and I'll love you for it. Or even to make it better, I want you to take a picture of the way you are dressed in your quarantine comfy outfit and then tag the same shit I just said and post it, guys, to your Instagram stories, man. Let's get the word out. Let's get the music out there. And let's dig into what this album is this week, because it was a Dougal. Released on January of 1974 on Reprise Records, this is the self-produced second and final record from country, blues, rock, and self-described cosmic American music singer-songwriter, guitarist, Jesus, how much shit did he do? And pianist, Gram Parsons. Ingram Cecil Cooper III was born on November 6, 1946. He's a Scorpio in Winter Haven, Florida, to a decorated World War II flying ace father and a mother who came from money. Graham's grandfather was a citrus fruit magnate, so that motherfucker had some loot ducats. Graham's mother was depressed, and both his parents were alcoholics. Okay, now if you think this is depressing now, I am going to say to you, go ahead and skip about 90 seconds, because this shit gets dark. In 1956, the already musically inclined 10-year-old Graham saw Elvis Presley in concert, and that set him on his course. Tragically, when Graham was 12, his dad committed suicide a couple days before Christmas, which devastated him. Later, when his mother married Robert Parsons, Graham took his last name. By 16, he was attending and often failing in several prestigious schools, while also playing in rock and roll cover bands. Soon, he turned from rock to the new folky sound. But in 1965, everything fell apart when his stepfather was caught in a cheating scandal, and his mother died of cirrhosis from her drinking on Graham's high school graduation day. Dear God, like, it makes sense why he was a drug addict. And I don't mean that as like a knock to him. Like, you got pain in your life, you do drugs. That's a way to handle it. Don't. If you're out there and you're feeling sad, don't do drugs. Try fentanyl once, but that's it. Only do it once. That same year, Gram got into Harvard University to study theology, which is where he first listened to Merle Haggard and seriously got into country music. After one semester, he dropped out and formed the International Submarine Band, his first country rock group. From there, he joined the jangly folk rock band, The Byrds, and changed their direction to country rock. With that fame, he left to form the Flying Burrito Brothers and merged his country rock with soul and R&B. But after some success and critical acclaim, Gram was kicked out due to his rapidly growing substance abuse. Despite a few false starts to a solo career, including Parsons spending time hanging out with the Rolling Stones and marrying his much younger girlfriend, actress Gretchen Burrell, Gram finally began his debut in 1972. He found a young folk singer named Emmylou Harris to be his partner in classic country duet style. 1973's GP was critically well received but commercially disappointing. After a shaky tour, he got ready for a follow-up. Once again, Parsons and his duet partner Emmylou Harris were to be joined by a bunch of Elvis Presley's TCB band. But 2 weeks before the tour started, Gram's Laurel Canyon house burned down from a lit cigarette, which led to his separation from Gretchen. Despite Gram's ongoing substance abuse, he rebounded during these sessions, which are comprised of some new and old originals and some covers. After the album was mixed, he headed down to Joshua Tree National Park in SoCal to recuperate with some friends. It was there, on September 19, 1973, that Gram died of an overdose of morphine and alcohol at the age of 26. Grievous Angel came out 4 months after his death, and despite being a critical smash, only went to number 195 on the Billboard 200 chart. And that's the story, Fleece Army, of how a Harvard dropout, drug addict, alcoholic, self-destructive trust fund kid became a pioneer of country rock. A sound that ruled the early 70s with artists like the Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, and then we're talking about the shit we fuck with today, Wilco, Ryan Adams. The shit that blows my mind more than anything is that Gram is still, to this day, not in the country or the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I have a guest that 100% is in the Comedy Hall of Fame. The one, the only, Mr. Tommy Chong. You guys know Tommy as being one half of Cheech and Chong. The guy is a living legend. And my producer chased him down in a vegan restaurant and got him booked on the show. All before the quarantine, of course. Also, side note, not only was I super high and him super high when we did this, but a half hour before we actually recorded the podcast, Jeremiah, my producer, had to teach Tommy and his wife Shelby how to download Google Chrome so we could use Zencaster because they're recording at their house and I'm recording at mine because of the coronavirus and all the shit that's going on in the world. And I'm on the other line, but I can hear everything. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is more adorable in the history of my life than listening to JT teach Shelby how to download Chrome and get the recording on. I wish I could have had that recorded. I would have presented that to all of you, and we would have enjoyed. Rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the 500 and listen free on Spotify. Follow me at Josh Adam Myers on all social media. Email the podcast at 500podcast@gmail.com. Follow our Facebook groups, the 500 Podcast with Jam and the 500 Podcast fan page. And for all things 500, go to our website, the500podcast.com. Well, y'all, another left to say, but here we go with number 425 out of 500 with Gram Parsons, Grievous Angel. Tommy Chong, my love for you was never misery. Gang, 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 gang. One more time, you said? Tommy Chong. My ski-ba-doo is ski-ba-dee-ba-dee. I do this for every guest, and I don't think I've ever felt more of a connection with a person while doing that.
Well, it kind of flashes me back to my bad acid trips.
They all had, for some reason, there's always a guy that sounded like a garbage disposal at every acid trip I ever experienced. All right, so
No, you know what it is now?
What?
It's that guy. You know, when you go to a party and all of a sudden that guy brings out the guitar.
I'm the guitar dude at the party.
You know, the guitar, and no one really asked him to. He was just dying to get a crowd so he could sing the songs that you never heard before and never wanted to hear again.
Yeah, but that dude fucks, bro. That dude, women.
So you have to tell whoever you're talking to, you have to say, let's go outside.
Yeah, I think the keg's over here around back. Let's just, Tony's doing his thing. Let's get away. Let me ask you this. So we asked you to do this. My producer tracked you down in some vegan restaurant, and somehow this happened.
Yes.
But you actually played a show with the Flying Burrito Brothers, didn't you?
We did.
Tell me about that.
Yes, we did. We did. And then they became the Birds, or the Eagles, or some bird, or the Vultures, or one of those guys. They started out as the Burrito Brothers.
Yeah. So he started the Burrito Brothers, then he joined the Birds, and then you have Gram Parsons doing Gram Parsons. But tell me about how you got into Gram Parsons. Tell me about that.
Well, I didn't know it was Gram Parsons for years. I always thought it was Don Henley.
Really?
That's his voice. The kind of there's a sort of like a similarity. I'm the kind of guy that. I hear tunes. I remember the tune. I remember everything about the tune, but I can never remember who sang it. It was one of those kind of things, And I was never an album buyer. I would just, it would be whoever I was with at the time, and listening to their record collection.
Sure.
And because being a musician yourself, you don't have the luxury of collecting other people's stuff. That if you do have that luxury, that means you're not working. But if you're working like we did, you never really had time. So it was a matter of just the voice. Parsons' voice is just, it's so distinctive, and the lyrics. Oh man, because I'm another guy that I'll listen to lyrics if I have to, if I have to learn a song, and that's the connection that I got with him. I really didn't understand the lyrics. I just loved the sound of his voice. I love the music.
Yes. Oh my God. I mean, if you look at this album, especially just on the surface level, on my first listen to it, I was just like, all right, so this is just some country rock bullshit. I don't know why it's on the list. And then I really dug into this, reading the lyrics and pairing it with the emotion I was experiencing behind the melodies. And I was like, oh, wait, this changes everything. I completely understand why this record's on here. So tell me about when you first heard this album specifically. Do you remember what was going on in your life?
Well, actually, let's see. It was years ago. We were, Cheech and I were on the road, and I think we just happened to hit a spot where his album was playing everywhere we went. And it took quite a few years before we decided who it really was.
Yeah.
Cheech is a little different. Better than I am, because he's got a photographic memory. He probably told me many times who it was, but like I said, I thought it was, I get Henley and Felder and all these guys.
It was
all
just the music that was
on
one. At the time. You were just like, oh, it's this song again. I don't even know who this is. Yeah, but
that's right. That's right. Exactly. And see, I grew up country myself. I had no choice. Because I grew up, in the 40s, 50s when I was a kid. And there was one radio station in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and as you might imagine, it would only play country, and I think they called it country and western back then, but it was all country, and it was like Roy Acuff, original the original country. Hank Snow was a big deal, and all those Western guys, cowboys. And then when I was a kid again, we'd go to movies, and it would be Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, and I love the movies because every one of those early movies, they always took time out to introduce the band and play a song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was always, that's, and then I started playing backup guitar when I was 8 years old for a fiddle player, because I was the only guy in the neighborhood that could play backup guitar. And so I'm a country guy from way back, but more out of necessity than out of taste, because once I got it, once I grew up, and and once I discovered black, R&B, well, that was the end of that.
Yeah, dude. I gotta ask, what was the first like black artist that you finally saw, and how old were you?
Well, Chuck Berry changed my life.
Yeah, I could imagine. Dude,
it changed everybody.
Going from like Hank Williams Jambalaya to fucking Chuck Berry, you'd be like, all right, Jambalaya, you can shove that Jambalaya up your ass, dude.
But no. The thing is, you never took one over the other. No, what it was the guys that I hung with. Because I got involved in dancing. Like jive, and and that was what we did back then. We'd go to community dances, and if you knew how to dance, then you got to hang out with some real foxy chicks, ladies. And then the best dances were the black girls. And then I got into the black crowd through the dancing. And then the black guys turned me on to rhythm and blues. It wasn't even being played anywhere in Canada. The porters would bring up through the trains, and they would bring up the records from the States up to Canada. And so when we started playing, when we put our R&B band together, it was everybody thought we were original because no one had ever heard that music before. And so Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and I like the Stones. Yeah. The Stones and the Beatles. I was a little ahead of those guys, but that's same music taste, Yeah. like the Stones, that Mick Jagger, he thought he was black for many years, and he tried to dance like James Brown, but he was so bad that he developed his own style.
Yeah. And then it's funny, the lead singer of Midnight Oil ripped him off, made it even squigglier.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just trying to emulate the black James Brown. They were trying to dance like James Brown, doing all that little stuff. But so years went by. Then we started playing gigs, and Tony Joe White. Remember Tony Joe White?
Yeah, man.
The singer.
Yeah.
Kind of a cowboyish kind of singer, and then Waylon Jennings and I can't think of his name right now.
Merle Haggard.
Yeah, Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash. Yeah, I was a big Johnny Cash fan because Johnny was such a stoner.
You know what's funny about this music is that, unlike you, I didn't grow up around country at all. I grew up around, I was hair metal and grunge. Country didn't make its way into my life until now, where I'm really appreciating it through doing this podcast, because the country I heard in the 90s was all like Garth Brooks. What I love, and you mentioned those artists like Merle Haggard and Waylon Jennings and Hank Williams, that country is as real and as truthful as NWA was to hip hop. Do you know what I mean? It's the most punk rock shit in the world. Original country.
Absolutely. These guys have seen the real life, and it was a circle. Like Jimmy Rogers was like the first, and you go back, but he and Hank Williams. Like I know I got to tell you a story about Hank Williams Jr., but Hank Williams Sr., he was influenced so heavily by the black blues singers. That's where he got all his soul from. all the great songs, the great country songs that Hank Williams sang, and he was like a black performer. He had an alcohol problem and he died really, really young. But back then, 29 was old.
Yeah.
So you'd seen a lot of that. Back then, you were an adult when you were 8 years old, like me.
Yeah.
I was 8 years old, man, and I was doing. If I had to drive a truck, I would have driven a truck.
You're like, I'm working overtime on the jungle gym right now. It's kicking my ass. Like, I just clocked over 40 hours at recess.
But the country was pure soul. Because they asked Miles Davis, because he liked country music, and the jazz snobs, they said, why do you like country music? And Miles said, because it tells a story.
Yeah.
There's a good story behind everything.
Yeah.
And that same as Ray Charles. Ray Charles grew up country too.
He did a country album. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just funny for how long it took me to appreciate it. So that's why I'm almost glad that Gram has come into my life after doing, because so far on the podcast, we've done Loretta Lynn, we've done Merle Haggard, we've done, what is his name? Steve Earle. I mean, we've done early Bonnie Raitt. So I feel like at this point now, digging into a record like Grievous Angel, it's like something that I can appreciate. Now, yeah. Truth be told, Tommy, when I first listened to this, I was not really feeling it. I just was like, okay, this is whatever. And then I started doing a bunch of reading about how much of a pioneer that Gram was pulling rock and roll towards country, right? And because you got to understand, I don't know anything about the Flying Burrito Brothers. I only know a couple songs by the Byrds. So when they say he's in those bands, I'm like, okay, but let me dig into him. And I got to be honest with you, after talking to one of my writers, it's just like, this guy is so influential into the direction that rock and roll went into country. The way there's no Eagles without Gram Parsons, there's no Wilco, there's no Ryan Adams. Like, there's no big star if this guy doesn't make this record.
No.
I also found out that this album didn't sell very well during the time that it came out. And I can understand that, because sometimes an album and a style of music is coming in too early for what the masses are going to love. Like, the Eagles really didn't pop till a few years later.
Oh, yeah. The weirdest thing, when Cheech and I broke out in L.A., Lou Adler had he was connected to the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger and that.
Yeah.
And Mick and his then lady, they had a benefit for the Nicaragua earthquake or something. They had some disaster down there. So Lou got us on the bill with the Stones and Emmylou Harris at the Forum. And it was
wow.
We opened the whole show, and there's like 19,000 people seeing Cheech and Chong for the first time, and seeing really first rock and roll comedy for the first time, and we shared the dressing room with Emmylou Harris and the Stones, man, and that was you talk about historical. It was quite a trip, because that was my life. Just standing there. There's Mick, there's Keith, and there's Emmylou Harris, man. Oh, what a thrill that was.
Oh, wow. All right, well, let's dive into the record, okay?
Okay.
So the record opens with Return of the Grievous Angel. Peter, play a little taste.
I saw my devil, and I saw my deep blue sea, and I thought about a calico bonnet.
So the first time I'm hearing this, I'm just like, all right, I'm not really feeling this song. After many listens, that might be my favorite part of the entire record.
I can see why.
It's just so great. It's just a nice little country song about being lovesick. Now, some facts from it. The lyrics were adapted from a poem that Boston poet Tom Brown wrote with the intention of Gram singing. But What I found in the lyrics was this. This is my favorite line, Tommy. He says, "The news I could bring, I met up with the king, on his head an amphetamine crown," and which led me to believe that there is a drug feudal system out there that I just don't know about. It's like, henceforth on this 20th day of the 4th month of the year of our Lord 2020, the Duke of Oxycontin challenges Lord Zantac to a duel. It's a great song, man. It's a great song, dude.
I'm telling you, they had all they put so much into the lyrics, man. And you really have to, I'm saying, like, being part of a musical life, you'd have to go over and over and over the lyrics or the solos to get what they were doing, what they were saying. And man, I feel sorry for a lot of people that don't really listen. They don't hear. They hear the melody. It's good to dance to. That's all they're doing. But yet the lyrics are just saying everything.
Yeah, I don't find those lyrics. I don't find amphetamine crown, because basically what you're saying is, because we know that Gram was a drug addict, with drugs and alcohol basically are what killed the guy. So in all of these songs, and to open up this record, singing about speed, basically in literally in 1973, not everybody knows about it, but he's telling the story of what it would be like to be out on the road. You're on speed, you're high. So let me ask you a question. So
sure.
You're born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, but you grew up in Calgary, like you said. What made you leave Canada? Like, was it a hard decision?
Oh, no. It was the United States was always a big pull, big driving. Actually, the singer that I ended up, that turned me on to R&B and that, it was him. His name was Tommy Milton. He was a running back, a football player, and he was destined to become a big star. Except he wasn't he wasn't big enough, and he hurt his leg. But thank God, and he wasn't that good of a singer, but he was a hell of an entertainer, and he had taste up the yin yang, man. He turned me on to all the good music. We're listening to it all way before the Stones, way before the Beatles. We were way ahead of them, and so he turned me on to the R&B scene, and it just changed my life, man. I just knew, it was real life, and then to be a part of that real life. So the States. That's where I was. Every time we go to the States, I would end up in the ghetto. I don't know how that did. We went to Seattle first. We got kicked out of the States maybe 15, 20 times.
Fuck yeah, man. You're persistent and consistent.
But it's called voluntary departure. They'd find us down there working or down there where we weren't supposed to be. And then they would say, okay, get out of here, just leave. And so it was easy, back then, you could come and go. But that's where all the music was. It was in the ghetto. It was down in the States. So we had to go to the States.
Yeah. What year was that when you finally got down?
It was in the 50s, 1958. It was a funny story. I started a teen club in Calgary, Alberta. I was barely, 18, 19, something like that. Just quit school. And then we put this band together, and we had nowhere to play. And so I had this idea, we'll start a teen club, and then we'll have I knew the guy that, that dealt with teen clubs and that. And so he got us a venue at the Canadian Legion. A beautiful hall with a great piano and a great dance hall. And so we packed that sucker every Saturday night for, must have been about 3 months in a row. Just packed Saturday. And it was so popular that kids were driving from Edmonton 200-300 miles just to come to the dance. But the problem was they made us quit at midnight. And so then we had all these revved up teenagers with nothing to do at midnight on Saturday. And so they would branch out into the city and create all kinds of havoc, fights and
Yeah.
parties, all that crap. And so the mayor of Calgary and the city, the chief of police, had us go into the mayor's office. And I thought at first we were going to get a comment, get honored for our contribution to
It's
society.
Tommy Chong Day.
Yeah.
May 23rd.
They said it's a good idea if you guys left town, for
Wow.
for the Christmas week, because the cops, they were understaffed. They couldn't handle it if we were there throwing our dances for Christmas Eve. I mean, the Christmas
Dude, that's
holiday.
that's the most Western shit I've ever heard in my life. Like literally, like the mayor had to be like, "All right, y'all, we gonna need you to cut loose for a few days."
Y'all got to get out of town. And he was known
go.
for giving out white hats. he was an old disc jockey. Anyway, so instead of being upset, we were happy as hell. Man, hey, we're on our way to Vancouver. And so we went to Vancouver. And then when we were in Vancouver, then it was just like a couple of hours and we're in Seattle. So it was perfect, man. And that's changed my life.
All right, well, let's dive into the next song, okay?
Okay.
Next song, Hearts on Fire. It's written by Walter Egan and Tom Guidera. Peter, play 104.
What could I do except to cry and moan? Lord, what have I done?
Dude, I love the harmony with Emmylou
You see?
so much. Just gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching.
Yeah. You know what we're listening
What's
to?
that?
We're listening to pop church.
Yeah, dude.
See those harmonies, man. That's right out of church.
I think, in all honesty, this song is what made me a Gram Parsons fan. When this song came on a couple of days ago, I was like, okay, I'm kind of digging this. Now I'm listening to it just nonstop, and I fucking love it. There's a part in it where you can just hear them both saying, because check out these lyrics before I go any further. Like, this is the lyrics to the chorus. It's because the song's just about getting out of a bad relationship, and I feel like it's said perfectly here, where it says, "Hearts on fire, my love for you brought only misery. Hearts on fire, put out the flames and set this cold heart free." I mean, lyrically, that is just gut-wrenching shit, and you can hear it on the final Hearts on Fire. Peter, play the final Hearts on Fire for me real quick.
Hearts on fire.
Oh yeah.
The relationship's over. They don't want any more. It's like they divided up the furniture. They keep getting together to fuck every once in a while, and they got to cut it loose. That's what I got from that final Hearts on Fire. Now, talking about relationships, and not that it was bad, but your relationship with Cheech, your act, took a break in 1985? When and how did your act get put on hold?
Well, we were clipping along. I ended up being the director, and then I sort of when you're a director, you are, it's one below God. Whatever you say, that's what they do.
Sure.
And the first movie we did, I directed it, but Lou Adler took more credit than he should have. And, he officially was down as the director. Since after Up in Smoke, then all the other movies, I ended up being the director because I made the deals and I had a producer that was sort of like on my side because I was the writer and the director. And so I was on a roll, but Cheech wasn't happy at all because we only did Up in Smoke. It was supposed to be like a one and done, but the characters were so popular that there was a cry for more Cheech and Chong like there is today. But he was very uncomfortable playing that Chicano character all the time because that was just one of. It was like one bullet in his chamber. He had a ton of characters that he could do that he would rather do than the Chicano. So it got to the point where the last movie we did together was the Corsican Brothers.
Oh, I remember.
And
Love that
his
movie.
stipulation was that he did not want to do a doper, any doping in the movie, which did not make the movie company very happy, because the only reason they had us doing it was for the drugs.
And maybe we see in this scene maybe some bong hits, and she's just like, nah, man, no more.
Exactly.
Nah, but we
That's
would
what
really like, maybe your character just has a big joint all the time. Network notes.
That was the notes. Isn't there a pipe or something in there somewhere? Anyway, Cheech was getting a divorce at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I was like part of the divorce settlement, I think, because right after we finished the Corsican Brothers, he came up to my house one day and with the news that he was going to do his own movie by himself, which was called Born in East LA. And so and that was it. That stopped us. That stopped the whole thing, because he never said, I want to do this movie, but I want to keep Cheech and Chong. I want to keep Cheech and Chong thing going. He just says, I'm going to do this movie. He's going to direct. And by the way, you're not in it.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I could take a hint. And so that was the end of the Cheech and Chong string of hits.
Yeah, but they were all great, man. They were all great. All right, let's move on to the next song. It's called I Can't Dance. Peter, play 37 seconds of it, brother.
But I can't dance, and I'm feeling so good. Yeah. Some of us can, some of us can.
Full disclosure, I thought this was going to be the Phil Collins song.
Yeah.
I really thought it was going to be the, I can dance. Peter, play a little bit of the Phil Collins song for me.
I can dance, I can talk. Only thing about me is the way I walk.
Now, that's a great fucking song, dude.
It's a great rhythm, for sure.
Dude, Phil Collins is the fucking man. I can't wait till we get to a Phil Collins record. My opinion, this song is just a breather in between the ballads. Yeah.
Yeah,
good song. Some weird lyrics I found. He goes, I can't dance. I never could. I guess my feet don't match. I'd get out there on the floor, but I'm afraid of hurting my back. Now, I did a little bit of research on this, Tommy, and he's only 26 years old when he wrote this. I don't understand that.
So he obviously never wrote the lyrics.
No, God, no. Dude, there's no way a 26-year-old has bad backbones, which is a hard thing to say, bad backbones. He has the little-known fact is that Gram was built like a 70-year-old deli owner. All right. Brass Buttons. This song breaks the fuck out of my heart. Peter, play 204.
The sun comes up without her. It just doesn't know she's gone.
So this was written in 1965 as a tribute to Graham's mother, who died that year of alcohol-related cirrhosis on the day of his high school graduation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Here's why this song just like tore me apart. Aside from the lyrics that we just played, which were, the sun comes up without you because it doesn't know you're gone. It's like you can understand why Graham would have had such a debilitating drug addiction. I mean, I think he lost both of his parents, but he loses his mom from alcohol. Both of his parents are alcoholics. He loses a mom to cirrhosis on the day he graduates high school. I mean, it just all makes sense.
Well, that was a culture back then.
What do you mean? Just everybody was just drinking?
Alcohol and cigarettes. That was a necessary part of everybody's lifestyle back then.
Yeah. I always remember my grandmother, my bubby. She died when she was 84, but she used to smoke, and she used to smoke when I think she pooped. So I just remember we'd be at her house, or like she's like a duplex in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and she'd have the door cracked so she could make sure me and my sister weren't getting into trouble, and she'd just be like, "All right, you kids," and then she'd just be ashing between her legs, like just like that little. You'd hear that little like into the water, just like you're like, "Ah, Jesus, Bubby, what are you doing in there?"
I got one with my aunt. I had an aunt, older aunt, my mother's older sister, and she was an alcoholic, and so we were the only family that would take her in. And she'd pull up to our house and fall out of the cab. That look. And then she smoked so much, and she wouldn't take the cigarette out of her mouth. She'd leave it in her mouth. She had a nicotine stain up the side of her face. That's how much she smoked.
Let me ask you something, because you've basically raised kids around the lifestyle that you portrayed in your professional career. What was that like?
Well, I'm a bodybuilder from way back. I started being a bodybuilder when I was 16, and I got kind of serious into it, as opposed to.
Why don't I know this shit? Why isn't this in my notes? You're a bodybuilder, just all greased up and muscly.
Oh yeah. I mean, that when we did Up and Smoke, I was in the best shape of my life. I had a professional trainer in the Valley, Vince Duranda. He had a special on at his gym. $25, I'll make you, I'll put you in the best shape of your life for movies. And so I took him up on that. And he did. He trained me, and so I never really, all that smoking and partying and that was just for the movies, off camera. No, I'm very lightweight when it comes to getting high. 1-2 tokes a day, maybe.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah,
dude. People are smoking like these blunts to the face. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? Just take a puff and go about your day, bro.
Yeah. Well, when you're a writer, I'm a writer, and I can't function if I'm too stoned, and so I get just a tiny little, and to the point where I forget that I got stoned. Things. Yeah. I'll get really hungry, and I'll go, "Why am I so hungry?" And then I'll think, "Oh, right, I smoked up." Yeah. So no, I was always into bodybuilding. So anyway, my kids sort of followed my, how they do, and so both my sons are, they're good bodybuilders. They're not in the best shape now, but they're within reach.
Yeah.
And my daughter, and my wife too, she takes 3 dance classes a week, and she's a ballerina, she does ballroom, and she does tango. And so she's got an incredible body, and she's, a total health, eats totally healthy, to the point where she won't eat Chinese food. That's how healthy she is. I'm, on the other hand, I'm, for my age and that. No, I'm a clean liver. I always have been. I couldn't do alcohol, and I couldn't smoke cigarettes. I quit that. I tried, but I couldn't do it, so I quit. And the only thing it was all an act for movies. We couldn't have done all the movies we did had we been as stoned as we looked at.
God,
we couldn't have done it. Or written them, or done anything what we did. All
right, let's move on. Next song, another powerful one, $1,000 Wedding. Just a song about a wedding that went wrong. It was written about Gram's attempt to marry Nancy Ross, his ex-girlfriend that he stole from David Crosby and the other daughter, Polly Parsons. This shit is epic. Play 327, dude.
All about the sweet child's holy face and the saints who sung out loud.
Oh, man.
Dude, that shit is so epic. Like, did J.R. Tolkien write this song? Dude, here he goes. And he swore the fiercest beasts could all be put to sleep the same silly way. It's almost like Tenacious D wrote that song. It's got a very I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not biblical, but, mythological.
Yes.
Talking about dragons and shit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a wedding that went right, though. So you have this incredible love story. You've been married to Shelby for over 40 years. How does someone make love work in Hollywood?
Well, first of all, we're not really we're married. She did not believe in marriage. When I met her, she was a young girl. I was married to my first wife, Maxine, beautiful lady, and the only reason we hung together, Shelby and I, was that I was safe. I was not going to fall in love with her because her problem was she's so beautiful that guys would go out with her and fall in love with her, and they'd want to, they just want her to be, and she's like a wild bird. You can't tame her to this day. And so technically we're married because of the income tax. But as far as reality goes, no. She is a woman, I really don't possess this woman. I'm lucky enough to live with her. I'm lucky enough to, every once in a while, she'll give me a hug and let me know that, it's okay. We'll keep you around. We're not going to put you down yet. But that's really the key. And like I said, not only that, but when Cheech and I broke up, when Cheech and I were together, no problem. She could come or go or whatever. Cheech and I that was our life. But when Cheech and I broke up, I had nobody. And I was going on the road by myself, and I didn't like it at all because you got no protection. And so I asked her to come on the road with me, and she was studying acting at the time. And then she goes, nah, I don't want to sit in the dressing room, And so I said, well, how about if I put you in the show? And so her eyes lit up. She says, oh, okay. As long as she had a job to do. And so her and I did comedy together for 20 years, I guess. And she became a really, really good comedian. Not to the point where she was going to leave me and just go do comedy, but it's another one of her talents.
She's got a 12:45 spot at the Comedy Store later.
If she's
like, I got to get out of here, Tommy. I'm doing the Laugh Factory late night for $80.
No, but you know what? Her and her girlfriend, another stand-up comedian, when 9/11 hit, they were in Nashville. And they had booked all these clubs to go, to sit in and do. And even though 9/11 hit, they show up at the club.
No, they didn't.
And the club owner goes, what are you doing here? And they said, oh, we're ready to go on and do our show. And they said, don't
fucking comics, dude.
Don't you realize what happened? They said, yeah. So what?
Dude, I did stand up. So I guess it was that Thursday in March that everything canceled. The NBA was gone, NHL, everything was gone. And the comedy club said, yeah, we're shutting. We're only going to do one show a night, less than 200 people or whatever the thing was. And I remember I got a show offer for Friday night and Saturday night to do stand up. No, and those are the last two shows I did before they shut everything down. But it was like they were packed, dude.
Yeah.
Like people, like even in tragedy, comedians are like, no, I'll go up. And people still wanted to get out of the house, dude. We were all probably patient zero to the virus.
Yeah, the end of the world's coming, but I got 15 minutes, so we can squeeze a set in. But no, that's why we're still together, is because she still doesn't consider that that she's with me. It's only
You
temporary.
guys live together. She cooks for you. You hook up. You watch Netflix together. But at the same time, she's like, I could leave you at any moment.
Exactly.
God,
Even when
I love it.
Even when I got cancer, I went in for the operation and everything else. Right then I kind of felt, she's starting to look even better now. Oh, she's preparing for when I'm gone for the next guy,
Yeah. All right. That's so awesome, dude. All right. Let's move on. Next song, medley live from Northern Quebec. It's got 2 songs on it, Cash on the Barrelhead and Hickory Wind. Now, here's the thing about this song, Tommy, is that it sounds like it was recorded live, but it wasn't. It was constructed in the studio with old audience sounds and friends talking in the background. Play this. This is how bad the sound effects are. Peter, play 234.
In South Carolina.
I don't know why they had to add the sound effects like it's the movie Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like bottles breaking and shit, and it's just like people cussing.
Oh, I remember What's Going On with Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did there too. They had the Detroit Lions, and they had them in the studio, and they did a little party, and they did the sound. Yeah, Cheech and I used to do that on our records a lot. Put the party sounds in, and sound like we're in a club.
Great songs. Both these songs are great.
Yeah,
First song's great. It's the first is a cover of the Louvin Brothers 1956 song, which leads into his own signature tune that he originally recorded and released with the Byrds in '68.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful. Peter, play a little bit of Hickory Wind.
But it makes me feel better each time it begins.
I honestly, if I could say anything about this record, the theme of this album is harmonies, because him and Emmylou singing together is phenomenal.
Did she go with him? Were they man and wife or boyfriend?
No, they were not. They were not in a relationship. I know exactly why he did Emmylou, because there's something about in country music a man singing and a woman singing at the same time.
Oh,
because
yeah,
you're getting both sides of the story, you're getting both sets of emotions, and I honestly think it's just country is it's a very masculine sound, but when a woman does it, it's like you can hear. We were talking about how country's punk or rap or whatever the fuck. It's like you can hear like the pain in their voices. So I think he saw the shit that what's her face is doing, Loretta Lynn, with the stuff she's doing with Conway Twitty. It just sounds better. It just sounds better.
Well, the whole duet thing, that goes through all the music genres, but definitely in country for sure. For a while there, when the guys were kind of ruling the roost, the women were like added attraction.
Oh yeah. So we were talking about how they wanted to make this sound like they were performing at a roadhouse. Now, before the albums and the movies, you and Cheech performed your live comedy at fucking clubs and concerts and all different wild places. Where were some of your wildest and most notable shows? Like, what were some of the wildest shows you've ever done?
Well, the one I told you about, and that was around that time. It was 71, 72 when she, Emmylou Harris and I, and Cheech and I performed at the Forum. But we played in Columbus, Ohio, the home of the Soper. Remember Sopers or Quaaludes?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. Well, this is where they made them. And we did a concert one time. Everybody in the concert were messed up on Quaaludes.
Jacked up on Quaaludes?
Yeah, and Sopers. Yeah. And when they went out, everybody got in their cars, and it was like a bumper car rally. They were banging, driving slow into each other. one after another. Oh, it was a riot. And there was everybody. It was like festival seating, seating on the ground.
Yeah.
And Cheech and I we're in the middle of a bit, and all of a sudden some guy yells out, "Matches, matches," right in the middle of our act. And then a guy goes, "I got matches," and we stopped our show while they got together to light up a joint or whatever they were doing.
They were so high on Quaaludes, they didn't even realize that you guys were on stage. They were just so relaxed.
Exactly. Oh man. Oh, we worked under some of the weirdest. We worked at a club out in Manhattan Beach that was owned by the Smothers Brothers, and it was a beer club, where they drank beer, and it was so notoriously crazy that the Smothers Brothers, they owned it and they never performed there ever. And so Cheech and I, we would get hired to perform there because we had the kind of act that would shut the drunks down, or they would listen and join in,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we've had some. We worked in a pizza joint one time with Carly Simons when she had her hit record, and she was on. She would do a show, then we would do a show, then she would do a show, and right in the middle of our act, they would call out pizza numbers. 43, 43. Right in the middle, we'd be going to do a punch sign.
Got a large pepperoni? And she's like, "You're so vain. You probably got this." Who added the double crust?
Oh, she was
awesome.
quite a fox, man. Oh, and
Awesome.
just recently, Bill Withers died, but we worked with Bill at the Troubadour when he first started out, and we were there a week with him. And it was one of the best weeks that I can remember because he was such a cool, sweet guy. What a sweet artist. And very funny. He could have been a stand-up comedian.
You know it. Every rock star wants to be a comic, and every comic wants to be a rock star.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bill could have been a comedian in a minute because he had the stories, He worked in Boeing, and he used to make toilets. And he used to envision, Jackie Kennedy sitting on one of these toilets.
All right, let's move on to Love Hurts. Play 56 seconds in, Peter.
Love hurts. Love hurts.
So Baudelaire Bryant wrote this ballad that was originally done by the Everly Brothers in 1960 and became a hit for Nazareth in 1975. So when I first listened to this, I was like, all right, yeah, I've heard this song before. It's nothing special. Then I found this little article about it, and I found this little passage. It says, "Love Hurts contains a lovely high whine, a mourning, keening reach for the suffering in the song. Neither overdoes it. They feel the pain. They show it to us. They make us feel every bit, but never go too far. And their sustain on the final Love Hurts demonstrates how far they'd come together in emotion and technique." Peter, play that final Love Hurts. What does that do to you? I mean, because that just crumplifies my doogles.
Yeah, that's nice. That's beautiful.
It's beautiful, right? Peter, just for good measure, play the Nazareth chorus.
Love hurts. Love scars. Love.
All right, let's move on to, we got 2 songs left. Ooh, Las Vegas. So this is just a high energy shuffle exploring the pitfalls of Sin City. And you also come to find out that Gram's band was comprised mostly of Elvis Presley's TCB band.
Really?
Yeah. Here, and there's some actual pretty cool shit in here that we found. Peter, play 216 for me.
Well, spend all night with the dealer, trying to get ahead. Spend all day at the Holiday Inn, trying to get out of bed. Ooh, Las Vegas.
What I found really funny about that was knowing about Gram's flaunting drug use. That line has a dual meaning when he says dealer. it hardly seems like an accidental reference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spent all night with a dealer trying to get ahead. Spent all day at the Holiday Inn trying to get out of bed. It's a good song. It's a good song. You know, I'm not. It's not my favorite song on the record. I'm more of a fan of the ballads on this album.
Well, you can hear Elvis Presley's influence, that whole rockabilly influence.
Oh yeah.
You know, that do yeah. Well, you know, you get that speed in you, and you're ready to rumble. You're ready to go. Let's do it.
You're ready to fucking go, dude. All right, last song on the record, In My Hour of Darkness. This is the last song not only on the album, but it's the last song Gram ever wrote and recorded. And what a perfect way. Yeah, it is. It's a gospel-style song of faith and perseverance and a tribute to his recently passed friends, musician Clarence White, actor Brandon DeWild, and drug buddy Sid Kaiser. And once again, Gram likely drops in another double-meaning drug reference. Peter, play 309.
In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision.
In my hour of darkness, in my time of need, oh Lord, grant me vision. Oh Lord, grant me speed. He
Grant me
loves
speed.
This is a very big amphetamine record. You did. We're talking about dark places because that's what this song is about, finding the serenity. Now, you were in prison for 9 months for selling tobacco pipe products following some bullshit sting operation by George W. But afterward, you wrote a book about your experience, the I Chong Meditations from the Joint.
That's right.
So how do you find that safe space in prison?
Oh, it's easy. You know, first of all, I was a celebrity. You know, so first thing I did when first day, actually, Vanity Fair rented a limousine to take me to prison.
Fuck yeah, dude!
And so I rode to prison in a big old stretch limo. And then when I got there, I was escorted through the gate and handcuffed for the first and only time. Just a symbolic thing that I had to be brought in with handcuffs on. And then they took the handcuffs off right away. And then one of the guards said, I'll drive you over to the camp, because I was in the main prison, you know, the gates at the main prison, and then the camp was behind the main prison. And so when I got in the truck to go to the camp, he pulls out an album, a Cheech and Chong album, and he says, "I'm your biggest fan, man." And so,
oh, that's awesome.
So that's how my prison time began. And then once I got, you know, settled, you know, in my bunk and my clothes and, you know, all that then I was invited outside to take pictures with all these Chicano gang members that had been waiting for me to come. And so I spent the first day like it was like after a concert with all my fans taking pictures. And that's the way it was the whole time I was there. I was like treated like a celebrity and loved and met some beautiful people, and I had a great time. I turned it into a spiritual retreat, you know, because I could. Because one thing about the camp, you know, it's for old, you know, like that's where Ehrlichman and Halderman, you know, that's where they did their time, and John Dean, you know, those types, you know, they're all in the camps, and it's like a high end. A lot of celebrities were there, you know. I had a really, really good time, and then I ended up meeting, you know, being paired up with Jordan Belfort, you know, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my time was, but what I did, I got into the Native Sweat Lodge. And so that's what you know, it took a couple of weeks, but once I got into the Sweat Lodge, then I had something to do all week. And then Saturday we'd do the sweat. And so time went by pretty nice. I get no complaints. In fact, my wife had a harder time than I did because she had to drive 2 hours there and then 2 hours back.
Yeah.
And it was killer.
I can see why you could treat something like that, especially in that situation, as a spiritual journey. Did you? But you're going through this spiritual awakening in prison. Did it rub off on any of the other inmates? Like, did you also like kind of like, well, I'm meditating or I'm reading this and like pass this information on to them?
A little bit, a little bit. Like I threw the I Ching when I first got there. My brother-in-law sent me the I Ching, and I threw the coins, and then there was another prisoner. He saw me, Mike, and he came over and he says he thought it was a game. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm throwing the I Ching." I said, "Do you want me to do you? You know, because you throw the coins and then it tells you your fortune kind of thing. You know, it's like heads or tails." And so I did Mike's, but out of being what do you call it? Out of respect, I didn't read his fortune, more or less, and I just showed him how to read it, and so he read it, and then he handed me back the book, and then he went to his bunk, crawled up on his bunk, and he just sat there staring out into space, kind of. And so then I had to read it. I had to figure out what this fortune he got, and it said to him. Well, first of all, when I threw the I Ching, it said the first line. It said, "You are in prison for a reason." Prisons are corrective institutions where you go to correct your behavior. And that was the first sentence of mine. And so when I read Mike's, it said that you had suffered a great misfortune. And I didn't know it, but his wife and the little girl were killed in a car accident coming to see him a month ago.
Oh God.
And that was his fortune. And so after that, the I Ching was a very important part. And so I would give readings to people that wanted it. You know, they would have to ask me for a reading. The one thing you never did in prison, you never got into anybody else's space. You just stayed in on your own towel. You know, you just stayed in your own space, and that was it. So I learned a lot. You know, I really, it was very enlightening for me.
I think a lot of people can go through that same experience now during the quarantine. Like it's all perspective. This could be the most depressing time of your life, or it could be the happiest, where you get to be by yourself and figure out who you are and like what you love and do the things that you want to do. I mean, you can't do that so much in prison, but I mean, you can't do everything you want to do in prison. But you know, for the most part, if you got 9 months, just like you said, is prison. You did something wrong. You need to change.
Yeah, to correct your behavior. And no, it was great. And then because I was famous, I had to, everybody wanted to do interviews with me. And so finally I okayed this one. Well, it was AKA Tommy Chong, where we ended up doing a documentary. And so we had it was a camp supervisor. It wasn't the warden, but it was a camp supervisor. We took over his offices. And now he's like the mini warden, you know, for the camp.
Yeah.
And so we're shooting in his office, and we got a film crew, and it was kind of cracking me up because of the way people treat other people when they're filming. You know, they just whatever they're told to do, they do. And so here's a warden walking around outside where we were shooting, and so I stuck my head out, and it goes, "Hey, quiet on the set. We're shooting in here." And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he started tiptoeing around.
That's great.
There was a lot of moments there that was nice. And then when I got out, that was another very beautiful moment. I got out, and in the prison is in a desert. You know, and you can see for miles everywhere. And there was a little grove of trees, and I was so curious what was going on over there. And so when we were driving out, we happened to drive by there. And sure enough, it was a little grove of trees where they had a herd of goats. And as we're driving there, I noticed one little goat, had his horns caught in the fence, and he was trapped. He couldn't get out. And so we stopped the car, and I got out, and I went and freed him. And my buddy Josh, he filmed it. And so it was like very symbolic. I got let loose, and I let the little goat loose. So it was very symbolic and very spiritual.
Wow, that is spiritual. All right, you want to do some facts and get out of here?
Sure.
Ooh, some facts. All right. Gram's protege, Emmylou Harris, went on to become a hugely successful artist after his death. Although they had a tight musical relationship which seemed intimate, they remained platonic bandmates. In fact, Gram wanted the album to be credited to Gram Parsons with Emmylou Harris and to feature them both on the cover. However, Gram's estranged wife, Gretchen Burrow, nixed that. Wow. So yeah, they never did date. They were just working partners. Now let me ask you about you and Cheech, because you had, prior to your reunion tour some years back, you guys had this long period of not working together. How and why did you guys agree to get back together?
It was kind of by accident. Cheech had done, movies, had done Tin Cup, he'd done everything, but he was at a valley in his career. It was going nowhere. I, on the other hand, was doing stand-up with my wife. We were doing fine. But my son, Paris, he and everybody wanted to get Cheech and Chong back together again. So he arranged for us to have a meeting. So I went out to Cheech's house and we had a meeting. And it was okay, but it didn't go too well, because by now Cheech had, became Richard. He became another guy, not the guy that I knew.
Yeah.
And so we had our falling out kind of thing, we picked up an argument that we had been, when we split, because my beef was that every movie that I wrote, he was the star. And then he wrote one movie and I wasn't even in it. It was a big diss, and so we parted. But it was nice seeing Cheech. I hadn't seen him for so long, and so that day, I think, or that night, I wrote him an email, and my son kind of intercepted the email. And my email said, it was nice seeing you again. Let's not be strangers. Let's, hook up now and then. My son changed it and says, hey, it was nice seeing you, man. I'm really glad that we're getting back together again, and let's rehearse and let's get this show on the road.
Wow. What's up, Paris?
It was my son that did it. And then he waited until Cheech replied and said, okay, and he was ready to come over for a rehearsal. Then my son told me what he did. And, of course, my son knew, that we wanted to get back together again. And it was just a matter of egos, and pride.
Sure.
And I had no problem going, I had no problem at all, and neither did Cheech. And we never really rehearsed. We got together, and the minute we got on stage, it was like we'd never been apart.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. All right. At his friend Clarence White's elaborate funeral that summer, Gram had reportedly remarked to his road manager, Phil Kaufman, if I die, I want you to take my body to Joshua Tree and burn it. Now, apparently, his stepfather knew that if he could prove Gram was a resident of Louisiana, he would inherit his trust fund. Because I don't know if you know this, Tommy, Gram was worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like his family were like big and like... Well, no, from his family had like money from like oranges or some shit.
Oh,
like the guy went to Harvard. All right, so here, check us out. It gets even better. So, while Gram's coffin was waiting at LAX to be shipped to New Orleans to be buried, Phil Kaufman and his friends stole it with a borrowed hearse and drove it to Joshua Tree. They poured 5 gallons of gasoline into his open coffin and threw a match in it. After the huge fireball exploded, they were chased and eventually caught days later by the police. Although a cop jokingly called it Gram Theft Parsons, stealing a body wasn't a crime. So they were fined $750 for stealing the coffin, and Gram's charred remains were shipped to and buried in Louisiana. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, dude. So they made a movie about this called Gram Parsons. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, I've got to see that. I got to check it out.
Now tell me this. What's the craziest thing you ever did for a friend?
Let me think. Oh. Nothing like that for sure. No.
Yeah,
the craziest, well, my claim to fame was that I played with Jimi Hendrix one time. He saw us that we were performing in London, England, and he'd been there. He was a big Bobby Taylor and the Vancouver's fan, and so Jimmy showed up at our gig at the height of his career, and we closed the place down. In fact, the club owners had to pull the plug to shut us up.
Oh wow!
And then we went and partied after, but the whole party, Jimmy stayed in the bathroom the whole party. He never came out of the bathroom once.
He had bad diarrhea, didn't he? Yeah, I heard.
No, something to do with something.
All right. Last fact. Even though he was considered a pioneer of country rock, he preferred to call his style cosmic American music. All right, so let's get cosmic here. What would be your most memorable line or phrase that we could beam into the universe for all to hear?
Probably I wasn't looking at his neck, man. That was... That line always cracks me up. And Cheech.
It's so great, man. Tommy, this was fantastic, buddy. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'm a huge fan, and to be able to sit down and talk to you about Gram and your life is just such an honor. So thank you, brother.
It was nice, and I got to thank you for turning me on to Gram.
Oh my God, it's
really
listen.
It's a nice turn.
I'm so glad that my producer stalked you at a vegan restaurant and probably scared the shit out of you. But what's good about all of this? Not only are you now a fan of Gram Parsons, but you also have Google Chrome.
Oh yeah, we're all set up. Except I'll have to have my wife come and show me how to, forget it.
How to delete it. This is awesome, buddy. Thank you, brother.
Okay, thank you, man. Take care.
The one and only Mr. Tommy Chong. A real Dougal. Find Tommy on Twitter at Tommy Chong. Find him on Instagram at Hey Tommy Chong. Visit his website for all things Tommy, TommyChong.com, and check out Tommy and Cheech's new app. It's called Bud Farm. We'll put the link on the website, the500podcast.com. Subscribe to the 500 on Spotify. Now, we just listened to Gram Parsons from 1974. This week, music director Matt Pinfield chose from a user-submitted recommendation, John Merchant. Listen to The Next Generation, inspired by Gram Parsons, on the Midwest Blues EP by John Merchant and the Desolation Angels, featuring Ashley Youngstrom. The title track single, Midwest Blues, is streaming on Spotify. Check out the link on our website, the500podcast.com. And if you were in a band and were directly influenced by one of these artists or albums, we want your music. We want to feature it on the 500 website. Send your song to 500podcast@gmail.com and make sure you put the album and artist that influenced you in the subject line. Next week is Bruce Springsteen week as we dive into his 2002 album, The Rising. So y'all got some homework to do. Listen to the album on Spotify. Stay fleecy. Dougal, my true Dukes.